There we go. Hi, everybody. It has been quite a morning on our side. We both have Maggie Millsap, whom many of you know. I know that most of the people here have been writing back and forth with her. She is down for the count with what looks like pneumonia, and we just got a message in that it looks like Howie has also had a personal issue and will have to reschedule. So, in the interests, though, of making use of everybody's time, since everybody's here, I figured that, you know, I had a friend tell me last week that he was watching a really interesting set of webinars from an entrepreneur just talking about the process of getting their company up and running and a snapshot of where they are. I figured that I would just spend about 10 minutes talking about RunWhen. I mean, I'm so proud of this company. While we're still in our infancy, I just love what we're doing. I love this problem domain, and I love the people that I'm working with. And I figured that if I could just talk about that for 10 minutes, I hope that would be interesting, both to people here who are looking for insights into AI and what that means for the process of engineering. We use a lot of AI coding tools. We use a lot of AI other tools, and we're building an AI DevOps tool. So yeah, I think just simply talking about our own experience there, I hope would be useful for people in this group. And then I had a friend say, hey, and then talk a little bit about the process of the company and what it's like getting a startup going in this particular environment. And then a tiny bit about what life looks like for the future, not only for the company, but where I think enterprise engineering in an era of AI, where I think it's headed. And I like the way that somebody asked. My big question for Howie at the end was going to be, hey, if you were going to give advice for your former self on navigating the career landscape in the chapters that we're going to see ahead, what advice would you give? I figured I'd just end 10 minutes or so with just a quick snippet on that. So if you're willing to stick with me, I'm sorry that we don't have Howie on today. He's a close friend. We've been friends for a long time, but we will reschedule on that front. On the first one, I did this LinkedIn post a while ago, and it wound up kind of reverberating around quite a bit. As everybody on our team knows, our team has anybody on our team has, I like to say, you have infinite budget for any AI coding tool that you want. And as a result, on our team, we're trying a lot of new ones all the time. We have beta access to several new ones where we have either friends at the company or friends who are investors in the company. And it's fascinating to look at the rate of innovation. Like, really fascinating. I think Cursor AI right now is our team's favorite, though we have some folks who really swear by Amazon Q. I mean, there are times when I've had to go down, so I'm just going back and forth with ChatGPT copy paste. But we've tried Pythagora, we've tried OpenDevin, a whole series. If I look at the ones that are sticking, I don't know that the race to better AI is really the question for us anymore. And this is probably really obvious to some of the people listening in. It's probably less obvious to others. I don't know, like things radiate out from Silicon Valley at times on this front. Because of the Claude Opus models, because of the increasingly improving Gemini models, because of the OpenAI 4.0 model when it comes to coding completions, I think we're kind of good enough on that front. And what we really see is it's all about the smooth workflow. It's not about the code that's generated. It's about how much does this thing understand the context of what we're trying to do. When you try, how much does it avoid that I'm copying a bunch of code, pasting it here, not seeing what I wanted, adding more context to the prompt, adding more context to the prompt, adding more context to the prompt. How well can it take into the iterative cycle of write a couple of lines of code, run something to test it, write a couple of lines of code, run something to test it, get the feedback from the test, and make changes to the code that I wrote. So if anything, what we're really seeing is almost like a micro workflow. And whoever has the best UX for the micro workflow, in our view, those are the tools on our team that become popular instantly and really stick. That's for new coding. And I'd say that it really influences our own product in a big way. Because what we're finding is when there are things that people are doing 10 times a day, 15 times a day, 20 times a day, well, it's those things that when you can shave off even just a minute or 2 minutes here or there, it makes a huge difference. So, let me just say that, use that as a bridge to talk a little bit about our own product and increasingly the way that we're thinking about it. We generally have like two engagements that fall in two big patterns. Like, we're either engaging with folks around production environments, and they're really focused around, hey, how do we use AI and RunWhen engineering assistants to reduce MTTR? Like, how can we use this as part of our incident response workflow? How can we use this as part of our incident triage workflow? Um, you know, this is sort of the primary focus. For the most part, is how do we collect a lot of information from a lot of disparate systems? Not only metrics and logs, but how do we run a lot of kubectl commands? How do we run a lot of SQL queries? How do we run a lot of REST calls? How do we collect all that information in one place and summarize it really, really, really quickly? But again, I come back to, I think for us, the next iteration is not so much the AI algorithms that we have around it. It's those little micro workflows of, okay, can we summarize this quickly? How fast can we get into ServiceNow? How fast can we get it into Group Slack? How fast can we get it into some of the incident response tools? How good can the signal to noise ratio be so that it's not, hey, we got a lot of information in there, but then somebody else has to say, and here's what matters. So I think that that's the sort of little micro workflow part is going to be really important for the tools that we use and for the tools like ours. The other types of engagements that we have are in non-prod environments where people really want to automate the, hey, something is down in the test environment and all of a sudden a whole bunch of tests are failing. And all of a sudden you have a bunch of developers spun up wondering, is this my code or is this somebody else's code? Like, why is this down? Hey, somebody gets a ticket and they spend 2 hours trying to figure out what's, hey, what's going on with this bug, only to find out it was actually some other microservice that was down. Sure, their code needs a little bit of defense against it, but the root cause was actually somewhere else. Very often we are, especially I think as organizations are slimming down, we call it more and more lean engineering. There are more and more non-prod environments that are fully maintained by the development team instead of being, hey, we have a couple of production SREs who chip in, or we have some folks on the DevOps team who's really full-time responsible. More and more we see developers responsible for their own dev and test in full non-prod environments, in which case you have alerts and you have developers who are just getting alerts. And hey, I'm in the middle of coding and I'm in my flow and I'm still getting alerts. So for there, we think a lot about interruptions. Are you getting interrupted by alerts? Are you getting interrupted by questions from colleagues? Are you getting interrupted by tickets? And how can we create this micro workflow of, instead of interrupting somebody, can we have AI, and in our particular case, AI backed by thousands and thousands of automated tasks, automated keep the lights on tasks, to respond to that interruption way before it ever actually interrupts a human. And I come back to there, when you kind of hold yourself to the standard of, hey, can we have any of these interruptions hit our system before they hit a human? And can we do something really useful with them? Maybe remediate the issue entirely. If nothing else, at least get a lot of useful information about it before a human gets involved. It's a really high bar. But I think that to me is kind of the micro workflow in the particular area that we do that we need to be really good at. So we talked a little bit about AI coding tools that we use and the stuff that's working there. We talked a little bit about how that's influencing, I think, our thinking, or at least my thinking. I can ask my colleagues too, ask Maggie, on the way that we're designing our product. I think that there's a last interesting bit, and this came up again today, and it's come up almost every single day this week in customer conversations about, hey, how do I measure this work? Because we know that there's toil. We know that we have engineers who are in wait states. Like, how do we do a before and after measurement? In production environments, people measure incidents usually pretty tightly. At least the organizations that we work with are measuring their incident rates and measuring their MTTRs. They have kind of a lot of tooling already and a lot of formality built around that. If they don't have that, they at least have kind of measuring tickets, and very often it's tickets and alerts that are these very formal processes that are easy to measure how many before and after. In non-prod environments, it's less clear. I found myself having a fascinating conversation with somebody who said, hey, look, I think that the best way to measure what could be automated is actually to just listen in to one of our Slack channels. And can we use just enough machine learning here to say, all right, here are a bunch of things that are happening in a Slack channel that we think a next step here could be taken with automation instead of the next step being human. We're going to actively pursue this area because I think there's something really interesting there, to be able to look at a noisy Slack channel before and look at a Slack channel after and go like, oh, well, this was taken care of by your engineering system. This was taken care of by your engineering. Your engineering system spent some time, escalated, and then came back, et cetera. So I think that's kind of the way that these observations about the tools that we're using are influencing our own design. Last thing that I want to touch on, people always talk about like, hey, well, I should say friends of mine. This is my second startup as a founder. This is my fourth startup as an employee. This is my third one where I'm on the management, or sorry, my second one where I'm on a management team. We just closed our seed round, which I'm really, really excited about. We'll do an announcement, a formal announcement here at some point. But it means that we can dramatically expand our team, which I'm very, very excited about. It also means that what we've shown to the market is like irrefutable proof that our product solves a fantastic problem for a number of organizations. And I think, if I look back on the startups that I've done, there's been this moment of, okay, now we get real clarity around how what we've built is solving the problem that we set out to solve. And I feel like we've hit that moment, and this round kind of solidifies that that other people see that too. People who did a lot of diligence on our company and called our customers, et cetera, et cetera. In the work that at least I do, well, I certainly have friends that have done startups that are like 2 and 3 month long build cycles, and then you have something on the other side. The stuff that I wound up being attracted to generally takes years to build. And I'm guessing a fair number of people on this call are also attracted to the kinds of infrastructure products that you don't build them in a couple of months. They take time. they take time to build, they take time to mature, they take time to think through. And during that time, the market underneath you is actually changing. So in the infrastructure types of products that I tend to work on, you form a hypothesis. During your build cycle, you're validating your hypothesis, but when you do come out the other side, you have to sort of revalidate. And this is what happened to us really about 3, 4, 5 months ago, something like that, to make sure that like, hey, are we actually solving the problem that we set out to solve? And there are always these fascinating observations around that. I'd say when we set out to solve the problem, we were entirely focused on prod, and everything that I just mentioned about non-prod, for us, that's kind of new over the last 6, 7 months when we saw a couple of people use this product that we had built in POCs for non-prod environments, and they kept on using it after the POC. Maybe it should have been more obvious to us, but it's led to this whole series of different, hey, there are interesting expansions that we could explore. Are there different features that we need? There's a whole series of different automated tasks in our library. So I'd say that part for us is really exciting, kind of watching a product that you've built, not only used for solving the problem that you intended, but then when you suddenly see traction around the edges of like, wait, hold on, that's so different from what I expected. Back in software-defined networking, well, we always set out to solve sort of many kind of, use white box switching, do many, many, many different things. When we found that it was incredible for monitoring, it was just one of these, like, oh, wow, that turned out to actually be a huge part of the early SDN market. So that's the moment that we're in now. And it's a pretty exciting moment. I mean, I think that these are some of, to me, the really amazing, just amazing moments when you're in a startup. Let me close on that thought. If I can be of help to anybody on this call, I look forward, we'll do an announcement when we reschedule with Howie. I really hope that Maggie is feeling better. Maggie, please, please, please get some rest. Pneumonia is no joke, and I'm sure a lot of the people watching this just want to make sure you're doing okay, because you're the one messaging back and forth with, I think, half of our 80 or so attendees. If there are questions where I can help with, where if you're looking, I'm sure most people on this call have already played around a lot with AI coding assistants, but if you ever want to trade notes with what we're using and we're seeing internally, just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. If you're interested, obviously, in RunWhen and engineering assistants, we've got engineering assistants for keep the lights on, kind of all of the other work that engineering teams do other than new code. Very, very happy to have a conversation around partnerships, around design partnerships, around just using our product. We're still a small enough company that, just hit me up over LinkedIn directly. And also, look, I try to pretty actively spend 1 or 2 days a week, or 1 or 2 hours a week, rather, just talking to very often friends or friends of friends who are getting their own companies going. If you are starting your own company and there's something that I can do to help, please. I mean, starting companies is something that I love doing, and when I can give people help along the way so that you don't make some of the same mistakes that I did my first time or my second time or this one time, just hit me up anytime. I appreciate it. Thanks a ton. Thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing you next time.